I didn't know anything about Chainsaw Man before I watched it, but I did hear a few rumors that absolutely hyped it up for me. It was going to change the anime game forever. The fights were going to be off the charts epic with action and style, and the characters and story were supposed to blow me away. However, there was one aspect of the show that caught me completely by surprise. Bro, Denji is a huge simp. The entire initial motivation for the story is for Denji's survival. He is monetarily destitute, his family has passed away, and it's just him and Pochita. In the first episode, Pochita sacrifices himself and gives Denji his heart. With this, Denji becomes Chainsaw Man. By living out his dream, he honors Pochita. The audience can relate to Denji's most fundamental wants. He requires the bottom two rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That includes necessities like food, shelter, air, sleep, and clothing, and the second rung with things like personal security, employment, resources, personal property, and health. There is one thing that affords Denji all of these things simultaneously. It doesn't matter the cost or what is asked of him, he will do it. Even if it means putting himself in harm's way, he's willing and ready to undertake the risk. So, what magical solution could answer all of Denji's problems at once? The answer is easy: being a simp. Denji's simping acts as a catalyst for the entire story of Chainsaw Man. It motivates him to join the team, and it helps give him a reason to accept pursuing a dangerous foe like the Gun Devil. But before we get too far into the video though, we should define the term simp so everyone is on the same page. A simp is usually a derogatory term for an individual who shows excessive sympathy and attention towards another person, who typically does not reciprocate the feelings, all in the pursuit of either affection or a sexual relationship. Denji doesn't understand this, however, and quickly falls prey to simping over Makima. He is willing to do anything for moments of intimacy with her. He places her on a pedestal and exchanges his dignity and autonomy for novelty. At heart, his relationship with Makima is not a relationship, it's a business transaction. I don't know, maybe that's an oversimplification, but it sure does seem like Makima is manipulating Denji into doing whatever she wants. But she seems like a nice enough girl though, so I'm sure nothing bad will happen. Right, guys? Guys? Makima was one of the most interesting characters in the show in my opinion, but I wasn't the biggest fan of how they handled her development. My brother and I disagreed on this, so I will lay out our arguments and let you decide who you agree with more. I thought that they didn't give enough information about Makima and her abilities for me to fully appreciate what she was doing in the show. My brother argued that this was intentional, and it puts us in the same position as the rest of the public safety team who doesn't know what she can do either. Let me explain why I think this is a misstep. There are too many unknowns about Makima, and therefore we lose a sense of context and can't totally comprehend what is happening on the screen. It's like watching a game you don't know the rules for. When everybody cheers, you're not sure why. You can't follow along and get lost. It may look cool, but you don't understand what's happening. I can appreciate that they wanted to build suspense, and I'm not looking for a full-on ability breakdown, but what I do want is a little context. Why does Makima request a temple with a high elevation? Why does she need a person to die in order to squish someone else? Why does she need the person to utter the name of the target? How does she respawn? And what about the bag of eyeballs that she presents to the Yakuza members? Is this supposed to be an old-school mafia message? Does it have something to do with her powers? Is she holding their family members hostage and just maimed them to prove a point? Or were the storytellers showing the depths of brutality that she is willing to go to in order to get what she wants done? I believe this scene was meant to show me something about Makima's character, but unfortunately, it left me more confused than impressed. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you agree with me or my brother? Did you want more context for Makima, or did you enjoy that the show kept you in the dark? For comparison, let's talk about something that I think the show handled really well: Chainsaw Man's power system.
Let's watch some crazy stuff, yo!
Sorry, but, we came here expecting to fight a big ball of yarn. What could you possibly offer?
Jeez, Rick, what's going on? I mean,
Don't worry about it. Let's just see where this goes.
Okay, you can change it.
So let's talk about why this show's power system is so good. First, I think it's successful because it ties directly into the show's mythos. Devils exist for all types of things. The more fear these things stir up, the stronger that devil is. A lot of devils have animosity towards humans, but not all of them. Typically, the more humanoid a devil is, the more friendly that they tend to be. Some devils even work for the public safety agency, either as direct agents like Angel Devil and Spider Devil, or by offering contracts with the agents like Fox Devil, Curse Devil, and Future Devil. Humans who enter into contracts with devils can gain enormous power, but it usually comes at a great cost. Aki's sword from the Curse Devil takes years off of his life, but it can insta-kill someone if he stabs them 3 times. Sawatari and Himeno sacrifice parts of their bodies to summon their respective devils, Snake and Ghost. Devils are powered by fear, so think of them like old-school Monsters, Inc. The more fear they can drum up, the stronger they can become. This would mean that some of the most insanely overpowered devils out there could be things like Death Devil, Clown Devil, Nuclear Bomb Devil, Heights Devil, Public Speaking Devil, and who could forget the all-powerful Getting Rejected by Every Girl You Will Ever Ask Out Devil? Those would be some scary enemies. However, Gun Devil has been labeled as the main antagonist of the show. He burst onto the scene years ago and was responsible for a massive terrorist attack that killed millions of people. He distributes guns to terrorist organizations and Yakuza members in exchange for money. This is genius because it funds his operations, all while spreading the fear of guns to more people because of an increase in violent gun crime, thus making him more powerful. And since there are devils working towards helping humanity, you run into some interesting conundrums. Obviously, you would want these devils to be as strong as possible, but in order to increase fear, you would have to terrorize the public, which is pretty much the exact opposite of what the Public Safety Agency is trying to do. Certain devils aren't even inherently scary or fear-based. I can't think of anybody who is afraid of angels, yet Angel Devil exists and has one of the most interesting powers in the show. Just by touching him, you shorten your life. The longer you touch him, the more your life is shortened. So basically, we have to protect Angel Devil at all costs. But the power system goes deeper than just the devils. Let's discuss one of my favorite aspects of Chainsaw Man. Let me introduce you to the Fiends.
You really clocked me there. Anyone bleeding? Oh. Ow, ow, ow.
Dory, are you okay? That's good. Intervention! Just start! Get him, mate! Fish and friends, not food! Dory, look out! I'm having fish tonight!
I loved the Fiends. Basically, in Chainsaw Man, a fiend is created when a devil possesses the body of a human corpse. They become less powerful by doing this, but they gain a humanoid form. They also retain a characteristic head. The fiends that we know of in the show consist of the Blood Devil, Power, the Shark Devil, Beam, and the Violence Devil, Goggly. One of the biggest strengths of the fiends is that at a glance, their abilities can be explained easily. You might think that this would make them uninteresting, but I actually think that the opposite is true. The Shark Fiend Beam can swim through any solid surface like it's water, and can revert his body back to his shark form for brief periods of time. The Blood Fiend Power can control blood and manifest it into weapons that she can use in combat. However, if she does this too much, she will get anemic and will become too weak to fight. And the Violence Fiend Golgari didn't get weaker by becoming a fiend. He is actually so dangerous that they make him wear a Plague Doctor mask that constantly dispenses poison gas to keep him in a subdued state. With these characters, you give the viewer so much to look forward to. Just this brief introduction of abilities is already enough to hype me up for the fights to come. It's the storytelling principle of Chekhov's gun. This principle was introduced by Anton Chekhov, a Russian playwright, and was a piece of advice for younger playwrights, but I think that it's a good general rule to follow for all storytellers. The principle is this: any element that the writer introduces into the story should be necessary, and irrelevant elements should be removed. For example, if a writer features a gun in the story, then there must be a reason for it. At some point, the gun must be fired. All elements introduced must serve a purpose. Now, not all storytellers agreed with this principle. Hemingway disagreed with it, but I still think that it's a helpful practice to keep in mind, even if you're a seasoned storyteller. But why do I bring this up? Well, the audience has been given something to look forward to with the Fiends. Power and Beam's abilities are not endless, and in every fight that they're in, they might run out of juice at the worst possible time. But in my opinion, the most interesting thing we've been introduced to is Galgali's mask. If we're following the principle of Chekhov's gun, at some point in the show, Galgali is going to lose his mask and go on a rampage. This will probably happen in one of two ways. First, he is going to remove the mask intentionally in order to defeat a powerful adversary that the team is struggling to take down. Or second, he will lose the mask on accident and most likely end up on a massive rampage of destruction and violence. Things like this are what build the hype in the show for me. It's these little tidbits of information that keep me eager and excited to see what comes next. I really did love the introduction of the Fiends, but with full disclosure, I have to admit that one of the Fiends holds a very special place in my heart.
You're wasting my time.
I need more power!
Now, at this point in the video, I don't want it to appear like I'm contradicting myself. We here at Drew Malou Studios do support one type of simping: waifus for laifus. There's nothing wrong with simping over your favorite character from an anime or video game. No self-respecting weeb is going to deny another their choice of waifu or husbando. Picking who's best girl from each anime that you watch is a sacred tradition that should be upheld, and that brings me back to Chainsaw Man. If we were to try and narrow down who best girl is from the wide and varied cast of female characters, there really is only one clear choice for me, and my boy Lemillion agrees. The only waifu who is worthy of being best girl is obviously... That's right, Power! I thought she had one of the coolest abilities out of the cast. Her combat technique is essentially limitless with what she can create and do in a fight. Her personality was great and matched perfectly with Denji. She was happy to lend a helping hand, but only when it benefited her. She is a cat lover and sacrifices Denji in order to save her precious Meowie, but Denji's cool with it and doesn't really take it to heart. I think that's because he would probably do something similar if it was Pochita who was captured. Both Denji and Power are a couple of low IQ smooth brains and have to be begged, tricked, or bribed into behaving like adults. Of course, they act like geniuses when developing plans to attack Kishibe. This is hilarious, and their tactics obviously completely fail, but it's so much fun to watch. Power comes off like she's just one of the boys, and when you combine that with the way she acts towards Denji, with her rough mannerisms and physicality, it can only lead to one thing as they harass and smack each other around.
Domestic violence.
That is, unless we're talking about the Spanish voice actress for Power. I have no idea why this is the way that it is, but she must have been drinking that good stuff in the audio booth when she was recording her lines. Let me hit you with that Power dub from Spain. I guess there's a reason that Spanish is considered a romance language. But anyways, I know that I'm not the only person who is simping over Power. I remember the outrage that many felt when they nerfed Power's feet. It turns out that in this scene, for whatever reason, Mappa removed Power's foot, and as painful as that might be for some of us,
That's why I'll never forgive the Japanese!
it's not nearly as painful as some of the other things that we were made to experience with this show. The first taste of real loss that we experience in Chainsaw Man is when Himeno sacrifices herself to save Aki and the others in the fight against Katana Man. In the follow-up scenes after this fight, Aki is in the hospital and Denji and Power are there waiting for him to regain consciousness. Once he comes to, they say that Makima wants to talk with them and then leave. Denji realizes that he left his manga back in the room, but when he goes back to get it, he hears Aki crying. He waits for a moment and decides against going into the room, giving Aki his space. What makes moments like these so fascinating is that the Fiends and Devils don't really feel a sense of loss for their fellow human devil hunters. Denji sits outside the hospital room examining his feelings on the fact that Himeno is no longer with them. He doesn't really feel anything. And remember, Himeno was the first human that ever wanted to be his friend, just for the sake of friendship. He wonders how he would feel if Power power were to be killed, and he admits to himself that he wouldn't be too sad. Even if Makima were to die, he says that he might be down for 3 days, but then he would just go on living, doing the things that he loves to do. This blatant disregard for human life is displayed perfectly when Denji and Power are fighting over Aki's apples. It should be noted that while in many parts of the world fruit is eaten as an everyday snack, in Japan, fruit is an expensive and very precious gift to give to people that you want to impress, show gratitude towards, or to wish well. Power and Denji are completely oblivious to this and struggle to understand why Aki remains so sad. They instead view this scenario as a moment where they can gain something for themselves. Although Denji does leave Aki an apple when he exits the room, he also realizes that something must have changed in himself once Pochita replaced his heart, because he didn't used to be this way. Pochita gave his life for Denji so that he might keep on living, and all he asked for in return was to see Denji's dream come to fruition. But doesn't becoming Chainsaw Man mean that his dream will fundamentally change? Doesn't that mean that he will no longer be motivated by the things that used to motivate him? This loss of self, the gentle eroding of his humanity, and his newfound disregard for the loss of human life, I can't help but think that this might be the real tragedy of the show. But those are just my thoughts on Chainsaw Man. Now it's your turn. I would love to hear about what parts of this video you agree or disagree with, so let me know in the comments down below. I have to give a huge shout out to my patrons who made this video possible, especially Javi G and Elias Axonov. You guys are absolute kings. If you would like to help me make videos like this one possible, or get your name in the credits of the next one, please consider becoming a patron. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Drew Malou, and I'll see you storytellers in the next video.